Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. In the quiet, cobbled streets of 19th century Copenhagen, a man walked alone. A small man, with sloping shoulders, sharp features, and a gaze that rarely rested. He avoided parties, distrusted crowds, and detested shallow conversation. But when he put pen to paper, he opened a chasm inside the soul. This is the story of Søren Kierkegaard, the reluctant prophet of modern existence. The man who taught us that to truly live, we must confront despair, take a leap of faith, and become ourselves. He was born in 1813, the youngest of 7 children, into a house of both wealth and gloom. His father, Michael Kierkegaard, was deeply religious and deeply burdened. As a child, Michael had cursed God during a storm on the heath. He believed that curse passed down to his children. By the time Søren was 21, 5 of his siblings had died. So had his mother. He was left with his father in death, always watching. From early on, Søren wasn't like other boys. He was introspective, razor-witted, full of contradictions. He devoured literature and philosophy at the University of Copenhagen, studied theology, wrestled privately with a sense of divine calling, not as a preacher, but as a writer, a mirror for the soul. And then Regine Olsen. She was radiant, intelligent, full of laughter, the very embodiment of life. They were engaged. But Kierkegaard broke it off abruptly, mysteriously. The real reason? He believed his inner torment, his melancholy, his thorn in the flesh, would ruin her. So, in a gesture of tragic love, he let her go and immortalized her in nearly every major work he wrote. In fear and trembling, he retold the story of Abraham, asked to sacrifice his son. He called it the teleological suspension of the ethical, that sometimes to follow God or truth, you must abandon what seems moral, just as he abandoned Regine. In either or, he mapped out 2 ways of living: the aesthetic life, full of beauty and pleasure, and the ethical life, grounded in responsibility and commitment. But neither, he said, can save you from despair. In the concept of anxiety, he explored the tension between freedom and dread, that vertigo we feel standing at the edge of choice. Not just fear, but possibility. Anxiety, he wrote, is the dizziness of freedom. And then there is the sickness unto death. Here, he defined despair not as sadness, but as being out of sync with your own self. The worst despair is not knowing you're in despair. Living an entire life comfortably as someone you are not. But Kierkegaard didn't stop there. He turned his eye on Christendom, not Christianity, but the comfortable, institutional religion of his time. He attacked the Danish state church with biting sarcasm and righteous fury. Christianity, he wrote, was supposed to be radical, demanding, a path of suffering, sacrifice, and inward struggle, not an easy Sunday routine. This cost him dearly. He became a figure of ridicule in Copenhagen, caricatured in newspapers, shunned in public. But he kept writing, under pseudonyms like Johannes Climacus, Anticlimacus, Vigilius Hoffniensis, each voice expressing a different perspective. He didn't want followers. He wanted readers to wrestle, to confront themselves. His final works, like Training in Christianity, became more devotional, even mystical. His last project, left unfinished, was an attack on the church itself, what he called Christendom's suicide. In 1855, at age 42, Søren collapsed in the street. He refused last rites from the state church, his final stand. He died a week later, buried without clergy. At the time, few noticed. His books were obscure, dense, full of riddles. But decades later, as the modern world unraveled, amid world wars, existential crises, and the death of easy certainties, people began to find him. Martin Heidegger, Jean-Paul Sartre, Simone de Beauvoir, Paul Tillich, even Viktor Frankl, and Martin Luther King Jr. Kierkegaard didn't just invent existentialism, he humanized it. He reminded us that faith is not certainty, but a leap. That truth isn't found in systems, but in subjectivity and lived experience. And most of all, he gave us this: be that self which one truly is. Not the role, not the mask, not the opinion others expect, but the trembling, stubborn soul within, the one that longs for something eternal. The greatest hazard of all, losing oneself, can occur very quietly in the world, as if it were nothing at all. He died in obscurity, but his questions live on. What does it mean to exist, to choose, to believe, to become? Maybe Søren Kierkegaard never found peace, but maybe, by walking alone, he carved a path for the rest of us. In his solitude, he reminded us that the deepest truths aren't found in answers, but in the courage to keep asking the questions. If this spoke to you, please subscribe. More quiet revolutionaries, those who shape the way we see ourselves, are coming soon.